Alrighty guys, so just before we get on with this video, you can pre-download the game right now. If you head over to the website and if you download the APK file, if you are using an emulator like how I am using LD Player, the link is down below if you guys want to use it. Yeah, you can pretty much pre-install it, and as you guys can see, you can have your logins, there will be servers for you to choose from, and pretty much you can get ahead of the game to where you are ready and set up for the game to go live, and it will launch on... Oh, I was about to say, wait, what? Time zone. Got to take into consideration the goddamn time zones. So, from when I'm recording this, 49 hours, 51 minutes, 28, 27, 26 seconds. So, just want to make sure that you guys are aware of that one. Anywho, one thing which I do want to do just before the release does happen is I want to inform you, well, I do want to kind of talk about two things in terms of in a two-separate video. So in this video, I'm going to talk about, and we're going to look at tanks and support characters that as a free-to-play player you want to look into, that's worth investing into, and that's going to kind of help you out. And then in the next video that I do, we're going to be looking at character. Well, also, so when it comes to the tanks and supporters, it's also including debuffers. But then again, that kind of correlates into the support role, so that kind of makes sense. Anyway, and then in the separate, in another video, I'll do hindering characters and DPS and sub DPS type characters. Okay, it's basically damaging characters that might be able to stun, you know, hinder, as I said. So, and then after that, your boy will drop the tier list. All right, for the global day one launch. So, let's not mess about. Let's dive on in. Let's see what we need to look at, and what we need to kind of work with when it comes to us being free to play and getting characters and seeing if they have any usage in terms of day one. Now, we're going to start things off. We're going to get the tanks out of the way because there's not going to be many tanks, and to be fair, I feel like most people aren't going to resort to having tanks at the very beginning, since as long as you just run your supports and your main DPS, aka Gojo or Kusaki, whoever you want to choose to be, you can just kind of power through at the very beginning, of course. But in due time, you will want to invest into having that upfront unit just to kind of absorb a lot of damage. So, the first character, we've got Miwa, of course. She is going to be the red tank. This is probably the best tank that you will get your hands on at the very beginning of the game, purely because it's an SR. Taking into consideration of the rarity and the chance of you pulling this character, you've got a higher chance to pull this character. And if anything, this is going to be overall universally the best SR tank that we will have. Now, later on, there will be another Miwa that drops that is way above, like top tier basically, but that's somewhere down the line. But for day one, we've got a fantastic tank. She grants herself self-evasion alongside attracting all the enemies attacking her to attack her, and then of course she can increase her Jujtsu damage, of course. She then applies a counter-attacking measure, so pretty much everything about this character is exactly what you want to see and exactly what you want to hear in terms of just being a very solid tank type unit, of course, to make sure that this character is the sole focus while you're potentially setting up your supports to support your DPS. Maybe you're running 2 DPSs, so you can set up a double up attack, of course. So this is probably one of the SR to look out for in terms of tanking. Next tank we're going to look at is Panda. Now this is an SSR. This is basically the #1 tank that you will have within a global launch. It's a no-brainer, clearly. Panda, just again, another character that can attract all the enemies, decrease the damage output from the enemies, has revival on his passive, of course, and more importantly, once that ultimate is in place and Gorilla Mode is activated, not only is Panda doing his job as being a fantastic tank, obviously the best SSR tank, or the best tank in general, but Panda does possess a good amount of damage, so you can actually get some damage going in. Panda is holding his own in terms of not slacking, so there's that. Now there is a rare Panda, and I will say this rare Panda isn't bad. This rare Panda isn't too terrible. You could actually, if you wanted to, make good use of this, because with the skill 2 decreases own damage received by 25%, and then once again he does attract all the enemies and then decreases the own damage received by 40%. Now it's only for 1 turn, but realistically, by applying the second skill going into the third skill, you can really set up that 1 turn to absorb a good amount of damage, of course. I mean, it's very simple-minded to how this Panda is, but as a rare Panda, yeah, it's not terrible. It's not terrible. I wouldn't really fully invest into this Panda, but if you want to put a little bit of levels into him just so that he can hold his own for the time being, if you're trying to set something up, then that's something that you can resort to. Psyche Rindo is one of the original characters for Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade. This character as a tank is just not it. As a, oh, I should say defender, as that's the role. This character is just not a character which I would really focus on. It's kind of awkward on how this character works, because it's like, hey, I'm able to do more damage once I lower my own HP, and it's just like, okay, well, what happens when you're like near to death? Do you do anything special? Nope. So yeah, no, this is just a bit of a risk factor of a character that I just wouldn't really recommend you looking into or working at. So I think, is that the tanks? Yeah, so those are the tanks in question in terms of what global will have day one. So realistically, Panda is, as a no-brainer, as it is in SSR, the hot pick. But literally, like behind him with just millimeters, centimeters, Miwa is a fantastic viable choice. These are going to be the two tanks that as a free-to-play player you want to look out for. More importantly, Miwa is going to be our choice, okay? So that's something to look into. Now, if you're desperately in need of some form of tank, you can always resort to Panda, the rare version, if you need it. That's kind of like the last resort. So that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of the tank situation, if that's something that you want to look into, invest, and have your first slot completed. Again, you can always resort to team building in a whole different way, where you don't need to consider using tanks. I've already gone over that through the team building video. You're more than welcome to check that out, of course. Now we're going to get into when it comes to the support side of things, so that could be buffing, debuffing, all that shenanigans, of course. So I've already spoken about it before. This is going to be the best buffer the best support character that you can get in the game. It's an SR, so you might get lucky. I feel like majority of us will get lucky at some point. Yaga will pull up, and if that is the case, this is a character that you want to invest in, that you want to level up. In terms of just supporting your DPS, he's just a must-have character on your squad for your DPSs to just kind of obliterate. So make sure that you are, if you do pull Yaga, level him up. Do what you got to do. It's worth the investment. All right. So there's that. And then after that, we've got Yoshinobu, which is a fantastic debuffer towards the enemy. Again, if you guys want to commit to putting a little bit into Yoshinobu, so that way, if you want to, I mean, you wouldn't have to go and commit to applying too much investment into this character. Realistically, just have it so that there's some form of survivability to where you can just apply the debuffs. Again, this is all kind of leading into for your DPS to come in and just basically nuke. In this case, it's going to be Gojo, of course. But yeah, a nice little debuffer, so increases own Jujutsu damage, activates or deactivates the alternative tuning state. So if alternative tuning state is active, changes the skill effect to deals 100% Jujutsu damage to the selected enemies, increases the selected enemy's damage received by 10%. So that's nice right there. With the third skill, if alternative tuning state is active, changes skill effect to deals 100% Jujutsu damage to all enemies, inflicts the confusion state to all enemies for 3 turns, which is a 30% chance, stuns all enemies for 1 turn, that's an 80% chance, will always take action last. So that's, I mean, that's completely fine, to be fair, in terms of just kind of applying that little hinder, of course. So debuffing, hindering, can't go wrong with that. And then of course when it comes to the ultimate, again, just make sure the alternative state is in effect, so that way you do AoE damage and decreases all enemies ultimate count by 1, so that's actually fairly solid to have. Increases all enemies damage received by 25%, that's on the ultimate, of course, so that's going to be fairly clutch. I believe, yeah, so increases all enemy taijutsu and jujutsu damage received by 25%, so overall, as a debuffer with some extra bit of source coming from this character, again, a nice little support debuffing character to look into, of course. Nanami, there we go. Yeah, so this is another character which I've already spoken about. So this Nanami is not a bad character, providing you with some nice DPS buffs. But I will say, with the DPS buffs that he does provide, he also gives off a little bit of a sub DPS role too. So as a DPS support buff, along with some sub DPS power that he has behind him, this is probably one of the support characters that people will cater to, that I would actually recommend. Again, it's just another character that will be available day one as an SR character that you can invest into. So again, I wouldn't go too crazy in the investments, but I mean, level them up a tad bit, of course. So that's another character. We got ourselves Yuki, aka the other original character for Phantom Parade, Jujutsu Kaisen, of course. Now, I believe, if I can remember correctly, this character is more on the line to provide survivability, if I can remember correctly. So decreases selected enemies damage by 15%, decreases all allies Jujutsu damage received by 22%, grants attack notification to the selected ally, increases selected allies Jujutsu damage by 15%. So yeah, some nice survivability going on right there. I mean, he also has a chance to stun on the ultimate, so that's going to be super helpful, of course. Also making it so that if you do have characters that are specifically doing Jujutsu damage, aka Gojo, aka Kukusaki, you are going to be very good. This is probably, yeah, one of the better support characters to look into, of course. So yeah, especially with the DPS characters that we're all going to be running with, Yuki is going to be fitting quite nicely within the team. And then we've got a rare version of Yuki, which isn't too bad, because again, we've got some form of survivability on the skill too. So selected ally gets a damage received of 25% or decreases, sorry. And then he also gives curse energy, which is not too bad. And this is all for all your allies. So you recover 10 energies every turn for 2 turns. Unfortunately, it doesn't affect Yuki, but that's completely fine. So that's actually fairly solid to have. And then when it comes to the ultimate, you're getting a Jujutsu damage increase of 64.8%. That's level 1, by the way. Again, this is a rare, so if you get it to... Oh, well, then again, no. Leveling up skills might be somewhat costly, but it does go up to 128%. So, yeah, again, not too bad in terms of just supporting your Jujutsu type characters, aka, as I've mentioned, Gojo, Kukusaki and whatnot, talking about the main DPS, high level DPS characters, of course. So that's another fairly good lower rarity type character if you guys are in need of that other support, if you don't have the SR version of Yuki, of course, so you can always resort to that in a similar fashion of how Panda is. Inumaki, rare. I've already spoken about this character, very good with the hindering side of things, whilst providing, you know, the ultimate gauge decreasing all allies damage received by 25%. So again, getting the ultimate increase and going on for the whole team alongside providing survivability, and then hindering a specific enemy with a 95% chance to do so. So that's actually extremely solid. So these two skills alone, it's just really good providing that support. Now unfortunately there's no healing going on his end, I'm pretty sure. So obviously with the sacrifice of the HP, that's going to be a slight little problem, but again, if you can set up your characters quite nicely, and if you can stop the enemy for that initial turn, maybe that's going to be more than enough for you to kind of do what you got to do. So as a rare character, this Inumaki, not to be slept on. Might be able to help you out in certain situations. Momo, as I mentioned, this is one of my first favorable SR that I managed to get. She is just a fantastic character in terms of providing all allies that damage increase. She gives herself evasion. She has a chance to stun every single enemy. It's a 50% chance, but it's a 50-50. But she also grants herself some evasion on both his skills, of course. And then with the ultimate, again, has the chance to stun, grants herself evasion. Honestly, this Momo, again, another character not to be slept on. This is probably one of the better SRs to just have as a whole, just because of how she can evade on all her skills, provide you with the buff alongside potentially hindering the enemy for you to kind of make good use of that buff, of course. So because again, the buff is on for 2 turns, she can hinder for the 1 turn, so you might get that free 1 turn with the 41%. If you guys do want to put levels into it, it maxes out at 68.7% for all the allies to get the damage increase. So Momo is another character to look out for, of course. So already we're seeing characters with the lower rarity just coming in and just will be useful, as I've mentioned, of course. Todo is Todo is okay. I would say this: if you have Itadori, then you can run this Todo. I think that is the more favorable combination that I would put in terms of if you want to use Todo as a support character. I mean, I guess you could use him with any other character, because with Todo's support role, it's more to do with the crit side of things. So obviously the character that's behind him as an ally, he'll apply the counter, of course. So if anyone targets, let's say if Itadori is behind him, he'll target that said enemy that targeted Itadori as like a counter attack, of course. So that's actually fairly clutch to have, I guess, having that countering mechanic. But it's the ultimate where it comes. What is it? I think it's the ultimate, or it's the combination. So the ultimate increases own critical hit rate. Oh yeah, if an ally has the best friend status, which is the second skill, the ally gets a critical hit rate of 20% for 3 turns, of course. And then with the combination, increases own and combo allies critical hit rate by 10%. Just overall, if you've got a DPS character that heavily runs off from crits, then yeah, you've got a chance to run this man. But I wouldn't go too crazy on, because I mean, if you don't have the right setup for him in terms of the ally behind him, then there's really no point investing. Inumaki, we got the SSR version of Inumaki. I used this character for a while, but I don't know, for me personally, he wasn't doing anything too crazy for me personally. So increases selected enemies damage received by 14% for 2 turns. Does provide some healing. He isn't bad, but I just don't think at the very beginning for right now it's nothing that you're gonna need. Does have notifications, that's not too bad, but I just feel like with this Inumaki for right now, not to be too concerned with for right now. Kiyotaka is a rare. This is again another character which I don't think you need to concern yourself with too much. Increases all allies taijutsu by 24, caps at 38. Decreases all allies damage received by 15, caps at 26. Fills all allies ultimate skill gauge by 200, caps at 400. Not. I mean, he's not too bad in terms of on what is being presented, right? When it comes to, I mean, because this is basically a full. I mean, well, the only thing that you're excluding technically is just an all-round damage increase and Jujutsu damage increase, of course, because it's specifically going with Taijutsu, of course. Not a horrible character. I mean, if you're lacking in options, then yes, you can resort to this, but I wouldn't go out my way to invest too much into this said character, but enough to make it usable. Because I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say this character is horrible. It's below mid, I would say. But well, then again, for the beginning of global, it wouldn't be that horrible of an idea to utilize this character. So yeah, this character is not too bad. It just really comes down to if you have lack of options, I will say. And then obviously Shoko, which is the healer in the game. There's nothing more to say. She is the healer. If you need healing, if you are requiring healing, you can throw her in there. Decreases the enemy's critical resistance. So if you've got some crit users within the team, have at it. Have at it. So again, this is just a universally solid character to have just in general because she is a healer. Which, that being said, this will be my first character because within the pre-summons, this is my character of choosing. So yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. But anyway, those are the tanks and support characters that I just wanted to go over and just kind of inform you guys on some of the good ones that you don't need to care about. But yeah, overall, like I said, with some of these SRs and rares that I went over, we are going to have a good time on getting a good solid setup. So at the very beginning of Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade, you know, being free to play, yeah, we won't have to go as crazy. And even with banners to come, it's going to be very calm in terms of being able to skip and still being able to handle the newer content and events that are going to be releasing. So yeah, I think we'll be a-okay for right now. But yeah, so that's pretty much the defending and the support side of things that I just wanted to go over for the free-to-play peeps. We will go over hindering DPS, sub-DPS characters next.